the most frequent questions I get asked is, Nick, if Sasuke is truly a Rinnegan user, why doesn't he use any of his 6-path abilities? I mean, after all, we saw a litany of abilities used by Nagato, the first Rinnegan user we ever interacted with. And therefore, should it stand to reason, if we wanted to see the strongest version of Sasuke possible, that we should see Sasuke take advantage of all of those crazy abilities he should have? Shouldn't he be summoning gigantic animals to do the fighting for him, or yanking people's souls out and summoning the King of Hell to heal himself? Shouldn't there have been a ton of situations where Sasuke was put in a disadvantageous situation in a battle that he could have gotten out with if he had just used all of the abilities gifted to him through the Rinnegan? Is it maybe, just maybe, because Sasuke doesn't actually have access to all 6 paths? Well, no, it's not. Sasuke does have access to all 6 paths of the Rinnegan. He just doesn't use all of them. And that's an important thing to hammer home right now. See, a lot of people out there believe that Sasuke doesn't use any paths of the Rinnegan, that being any of the paths outside of his specific ability that he got with his Rinnegan Heavenly Hand Power. However, that's not case. We've actually seen Sasuke use a couple of the paths of the Rinnegan several times. In fact, he uses the Deva path rather extensively, whether that was using Chibako Tensei to seal up all the tailed beasts before his battle against Naruto, or using the push ability of the Deva path to push enemies away, or the pull aspect of it to pull objects to him, or even Naruto to him. And we've also seen him use the Preta path, that is to say, the chakra absorption path of the Rinnegan, multiple times to nullify ninjutsu being fired at him. And yes, on top of the Deva and Preta paths, Sasuke also uses his Rinnegan specific ability, Heavenly Hand Power, all the time. Some would argue too much, but it is undeniable that there are tons of paths of the Rinnegan that Sasuke just simply doesn't use. But why doesn't he use them? And would he be stronger if he did? Well, today we're going to be answering all those questions and a whole lot more, because today we're talking why Sasuke, the Rinnegan's worst user. Before we get slandering Sasuke's name, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you're looking for an additional NC Hammer 23 video every single week, guys, you can go ahead and find my Naruto reaction series using the 4th wall link in my description below. We're doing a double episode when I get home. Before I go any further with that, I want to talk to you about the sponsor of today's episode, G Fuel. G Fuel is a sugar-free performance energy drink that is a massive staple in my day-to-day life. See, there are some days that I'm so excited for work that I just run to my desk and film as many videos as I'd like. However, there are other days that I need a boost, and that's where G Fuel comes into my life. See, G Fuel gives me the laser focus I need some days to get over the hump that is filming multiple YouTube videos in a day. It makes me wittier, funnier, and allows for me to talk quicker. Ideas flow to me much easier. It makes me feel like I'm a super powered content creator. And by far and away, my favorite flavors of G Fuel have to come from the anime lines. See, whether that's the Kamehameha flavor or my true actual #1 favorite flavor in all of G Fuel's roster, Sharingan. I'm not kidding you when I say I drink these flavors of G Fuel probably every other day that I'm working. In fact, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't miss the energy tubs of G Fuel I have back at my house right now as I'm in Asia. Because G Fuel's energy tubs not only give you endurance, energy, they up your performance, but they're also a delicious and sugar-free addition to my mornings. However, if I ever need to get truly deep into my bag, I tap into G Fuel's energy cans. See, G Fuel packages their high-performance, high-caffeine blend into their energy cans for when you really need to kick into high gear. And I swear when I drink these things, video ideas just come down to me from the ether. I don't understand who's sending them, but I'm taking them. But if you're not looking for caffeinated products, don't worry, G Fuel's got you covered there as well, as they also have their hydration tubs, which provides you with electrolytes and vitamins that hone your focus and help your recovery. So if I'm working late into the night and I want to be able to sleep at my regular time, sometimes I'll just use the hydration tubs to sharpen my focus without worrying about that caffeinated boost. But caffeine or not, the energy provided by G Fuel never comes along with the crash or the jitters. See, because G Fuel makes sure to include vital vitamins in all of their blends, like B, C, D, and E, and taurine, to ensure that the energy that you get from their product is as clean as possible. So what are you waiting for? Head to the link in my description and use the code on screen right now to get a special discount specific to my viewers on G Fuel today. Whether it's filming, gaming, or just performing IRL, G Fuel gives you a leg up. As you guys can see by the sign behind me, I'm here in beautiful Whistler. And by beautiful Whistler, I mean rainy, slushy, and some of the worst skiing conditions I've ever seen in my entire life. Which is why yesterday I decided to completely overshoot a jump while trying to do a backflip, landed on my back, and maybe tore my rotator cuff. So You're not gonna see a whole lot of movement out of this arm. So vacation's going well. I miss my dogs. Anyways, back to my favorite character in all of Naruto, Sasuke. So something we're gonna be talking about a lot today is fighting styles and how different characters have different fighting styles. And while this has never specifically been confirmed, it seems as though with the 2-person sample size that we have, that person-specific Rinnegan abilities are very much tailored to the person using them. See, take for example, Madara's Limbo Clone. His Rinnegan specific ability, an ability that allowed for Madara to make clones in a separate but parallel universe that were invisible to your average combatant. And thus Madara was essentially able to make shadow clones of himself that nobody else would be able to defend against. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, but how does that have anything to do with how Madara usually fights? Well, I'd like to direct you towards one of Madara's most important fights, his battle against the 5 Kage. See, Madara loves using shadow clones. It's not because he needs the help, but because to Madara, the idea of just his shadow clones being strong enough to defeat his opponents is kind of his ideal scenario. See, it's not that Madara's lazy, but he believes that not engaging his opponent directly is the ultimate sign of disrespect to opponents that he believes are below him. And thus, in a lot of Madara's fights, that is to say, fights of Madara's that we actually get to see play out, we see him using and relying on clones rather frequently. And therefore, it stands to reason that if we're trying to fit a specific ability into Madara's fighting style, that the strongest version of shadow clones we've ever seen, Limbo clones would kind of be a perfect choice. And the same ideology can be applied to Sasuke. See, Sasuke's heavenly hand power, or his high-speed switching ability, fits his fighting style much more than any of the other paths of the Rinnegan. See, Sasuke is a medium quarters brawler. I think they would call him a spacer in fighting games. I don't play fighting games. I'm happy most of the time, not right now, but most of the time. And he uses his speed and enhanced extrasensory perception, granted to him with both his 6-to-make Rinnegan and his Monkey Kill Sharingan, to close the distance between himself and his opponent to land fatal blows at specific times, using his Chidori, most likely. And while when it boils down to it, even though Sasuke is incredible at taijutsu, the only weapon in his entire arsenal that's even remotely catered towards the idea of close quarter combat is the base version of the Chidori, something that he actually augments several times to give it better range. Everything else in Sasuke's kit, be it Amaterasu, his Susanoo that comes with a bow and arrow, Kirin, and great fireball technique, the jutsu of the Uchiha, is more catered towards medium quarters combat. And therefore, because the vast majority of Sasuke's arsenal is built towards medium quarters combat, Heavenly Hand Power not only serves as a way for Sasuke to get away from his opponents, create distance, and use his ninjutsu, but also serves as a way for Sasuke to close the distance between himself and his opponent of his own accord, leading to one of Sasuke's most legendary moves, where he uses Heavenly Hand Power to teleport behind somebody and then spiking them down into the ground using his Chidori. But because that is fundamentally how Sasuke fights, a lot of the paths just don't mesh with his fighting style. See, with the scope of Sasuke's abilities now laid bare in front of us, the paths that he does actually use begin to make a fair amount of sense. He uses the Deva path to push his opponents away to create distance. He uses the Deva path to pull his opponents towards him to try to get them to fall into his decisive blows. He also uses the Deva path to pull objects to him so he doesn't have to change the trajectory of his travel in order to ensure that he's able to maintain a speed advantage. However, because Sasuke's fighting style does inherently give his opponents the time and space they need to get their ninjutsu off, he also has to use the Preta path to absorb their fired ninjutsu. And thus, when you think about it, the way that Sasuke fights makes perfect sense. The majority of his jutsus are best used when kind of far away from his opponent, and when he's kind of far away from his opponent tries to use jutsus that are best when used when kind of far away from your opponent. However, when you try to use those jutsus, he just absorbs them, meaning that any kind of battle that's further than fist distance, Sasuke has a distinct advantage because of the Rinnegan. Now, you could absolutely make the argument that the other paths that Sasuke has access to, if utilized correctly, would help Sasuke fight in the way that he wants to fight. Like, for example, the animal path. I mean, if Sasuke used the animal path, he could inundate his opponent with gigantic summoning animals that would either allow for Sasuke to create the distance that he needs to pull off some of his more powerful ninjutsu, like Amaterasu or Kirin, or possibly distract his opponent for long enough that Sasuke is able to identify and take advantage of a flaw in their armor. And both of those sound like pretty big pluses to me, so why wouldn't Sasuke use the animal path? Well, it's important to remember at this moment in time that the only Rinnegan user we have ever seen use the animal path, that being Nagato, treated the animal path body with the lowest level of priority out of any of the 6 paths of pain, which is why the animal path ends up being killed twice by Jiraiya. See, the animal path is a sacrificial pawn that is used to protect the more important paths by Nagato all the time, and that's because the animal path is just inherently not all that useful. Now, this obviously isn't to say that the ability to summon gigantic summoning animals that are sometimes unkillable is not an incredible ability in the Naruto universe, especially when you consider the fact that some of the more specialized summonings, like the chameleon that's able to make its user invisible by the user climbing into its mouth, can allow for the user to essentially retreat from the battle and allow their summoning animals to do all of the work for them. Nagato understood at a time and space in Naruto that is massively different than where we are right now in Boruto, that even the summoning of these gigantic animals wasn't all that powerful. See, there's a reason that Naruto doesn't really summon the toads anymore. And that's because they get destroyed the second they hit the battlefield. Yes, they are huge. Yes, they have big old swords and they can jump super high. However, unfortunately, all power type summonings kind of lost their relevance when tailed beasts just took their spot. And while yes, there was obviously a time when tailed beasts and the summoning toads were being written to be somewhat equal in powers, we saw Gamabunta clash with Shukaku, but unfortunately, as things like tailed beast balls, perfect Jinchuriki complete transformations, and majestic attire Susanos began to hit the market, straight power type summonings kind of lost all their meaning. Now, this doesn't mean that there isn't still some incredibly important summonings out there. Mobility type summonings like Garuda, Sasuke's gigantic hawk, he summons all the time on account of the fact that he can't fly, and healing summonings like Lady Katsuo that are able to split themselves into a million tiny slugs that can heal you basically from any kind of grievous wound are always going to be important. But those by and large are the summoning animals that you can access with the animal path. While yes, there is a flying summoning that you can get with the animal path, and therefore Sasuke could use that, he already has Garuda, he doesn't need it. But Nick, what about the invisibility chameleon? You mean the invisibility chameleon that you need to be inside of in order for its invisibility to apply to you? Not to mention that literally almost everybody that Sasuke fights nowadays either has a Sharingan, a Rinnegan, or a Byakugan, and traditional invisibility is no longer really a useful asset to have in combat. So outside of the fact that Sasuke couldn't really launch any of the ninjutsu that he would want to launch from inside of his summoned chameleon, my light fell, but also all that Sasuke would be achieving is nothing. He'd be achieving nothing because everybody could still see his chakra. Okay, Nick, but what about the Asura path? You can't seriously tell me that Sasuke wouldn't benefit from being able to turn his fingers into swords and his arm into a rocket launcher or grow a big blade tail. I'm like, no, I actually can't. But like, at the same time, I kind of can. Like, yes, is there any feasible downside to Sasuke being able to mechanize his body? No. None whatsoever. The idea of Sasuke being able to turn his body into more weapons and turn parts of his body into armor to be unaffected by physical attacks would be massively useful. And therefore, if I'm being 100% real with you, the reason that Sasuke doesn't use the Asura path, it's a branding issue. In an era of conversation, that is to say Boruto, about whether or not shinobi wear or augmenting your body with science is an ethical and moral way to achieve your strength, with the general conclusion, at least tonally, being that like, yeah, you can, but it's never gonna measure up to good old hard work and dedication to your craft. One of the 2 or 3 remaining examples of human-made, hard work acquired power doing basically the exact same thing as Kawaki, the new generation's literal foremost representative in not working for your power, would be a really bad and weird writing decision. Like, yeah, obviously they're different abilities, but let's not forget that Sasuke was literally gifted his Rinnegan. If Sasuke started turning his arm into blades or turning his legs into jet boosters to increase the speed and strength of his kicks, there'd really be no separation in terms of fighting style between him and Kawaki. That's a bad look. And don't even get me started on the human and the Naraka path. Before we even get into it, no, Sasuke could not use the human and/or Naraka path to separate Boruto and Momoshiki. Even before Momoshiki abandoned his upload of his soul into Boruto's body, ensuring that the 2 of them would live together forever, the sheer fact that Boruto's actual genetic DNA was being Otsutsufied just by having the comma marking uploading Momoshiki's personality and genetic information and history into his body proved to us that not only was Boruto's body merging with Momoshiki's, but his very soul. On top of that, if two souls living in one body could be separated using either the animal or the Naraka path, then why wouldn't have Nagato done that with all of the Jinchuriki? You think Nagato just didn't think about pulling the tailed beast out of a Jinchuriki's body using one of his 6 abilities, and therefore just decided, I guess I'll summon the entire Akatsuki from all corners of the continent to stand around in a circle for 3 days, exerting maximum effort to slowly but surely pull a tailed beast out of this Jinchuriki we knocked out? You think he wanted to summon Hidan and Kakasu from God knows where so he could listen to what Hidan's been up to for the last couple of months since they caught their last Jinchuriki? If he could have just been ripping out tailed beasts out of Jinchuriki using the animal and Naraka path, he would have done that a long time ago.
But Nick, the human and Naraka path could still be useful to Sasuke in a myriad of other ways.
Could it? Well, yes, with the Naraka path or the King of Hell path, Sasuke could yank out the souls of people he wanted to interrogate, and if they didn't tell the truth, he could feed their souls to the King of Hell, killing them instantly, giving Sasuke a surefire way to extract the cold, hard, and honest truth out of anybody he wanted to. However, another little known fact about the Naraka path is that even if you do tell the truth, let's say I go, hey, is the sky blue? And you go, when your soul snaps back into you, you're just in a vegetative state for the rest of your life. There's no good way to get your soul lightly yanked out of you. It always does a lot of damage. And while this would give Sasuke a surefire interrogation option, how often is Sasuke chasing down leads? And how often do the people who Sasuke is chasing down, because he is chasing Otsutsuki's down all the time, exist at a power level where Sasuke in a one-on-one or possibly 1v2 fight would be able to hold them down, pull out their soul, and ask them a question? I mean, it's a long process. He has to fight somebody, he has to grab them, he has to pull out their soul, he has to summon the King of Hell, and if there's somebody else in this fight, they can interrupt this process simply by attacking him. And in the entirety of Boruto, we've only seen Sasuke fight a couple of times. There's his battle against Shin Uchiha, which is barely a fight, and he doesn't need any information from Shin Uchiha because he won't stop talking about who he is, free of really anybody asking him. Sasuke then battles against Momoshiki and Kinshiki simultaneously and identifies that the two of them while working together are probably more of a threat than he's able to deal with, and therefore there's really no circumstance where he'd be able to grab either Momoshiki or Kinshiki. He then fights Momoshiki again, and while pulling out Momoshiki's soul and asking him a couple of questions would have been a great way to get more information about the Otsutsuki, consider the fact that Momoshiki almost killed both he and Naruto, not a whole lot of opportunity to do exactly that. And most recently, Sasuke had to fight against Jigen and Ishiki, two people he was lucky to hit a combined total of once. And listen, not to mention the fact that if Sasuke was hypothetically put in a situation where he was able to use the Naraka path, which mind you's real largest utility is actually being able to heal the 6 paths of pain, and no, it probably wouldn't be able to heal Sasuke or his Rinnegan, on account of the fact that Sasuke is not a corpse being piloted by chakra rods. Corpses have like a weird ability to be healed really well in the Naruto universe. Look at Edo Tensei. Even if the person that Sasuke was interrogating did tell the truth, like we said earlier, they would be crippled for life. And if they lie, they die. Something we probably shouldn't be showing the newly turned Leaf, second best guy in the Leaf, doing. And the human path, it does the same thing. That's something we don't talk about often enough. The human and Naraka path do the exact same things. And well, yes, they're intrinsically tied to each other because in order to feed a soul to the King of Hell, you need to be able to pull out somebody's soul, and that's the job of the human path. Simply by pulling out somebody's soul, you can probe into all their memories and answer all the questions that you would need answered. With the only real difference being between the Naraka and human paths being if you tell the truth while being interrogated through the Naraka path, you get to be crippled for life and not dead. So better. Better, because the death of the human path kills you forever. Now, this obviously raises the question in some of your inquisitive minds, why isn't Sasuke using the Soul Yank ability to kill his stronger opponents with just one touch? Well, because not really instantaneous, and also you can resist it, as long as you are close to as strong or stronger than the person trying to use it on you. See, we saw in chapter 551, when Edo Nagato was trying to rip out Naruto's soul, that in this sequence, not only does Nagato need to keep a hold of Naruto, who at this moment in time, he is massively more powerful than, that also that Naruto, even though he is being weakened by his soul being pulled out of him, is able to resist this soul yank. Kind of like how Orochimaru was able to resist having the entirety of their soul yanked out by Hiruzen. And like I said, in this sequence, it's not even arguable that Edo Nagato is much stronger than KCM1 Naruto. See, not only would Naruto have died during the sequence if Killer Bee and Itachi didn't both try to interfere with Naruto getting sucked, but also took the combined forces of KCM1 Naruto, a perfect Jinchuriki and Killer B, and the strongest Itachi we've ever seen to defeat this version of Nagato. Killer B literally tries to stop Nagato from yanking out Naruto's soul and can't. It's not until Itachi steps in that Naruto is saved. So if Naruto, who was much weaker than Edo Nagato at this moment in time, could still battle against having his soul pulled out of him, making the process anything but instantaneous, then the ability is essentially useless for Sasuke, who is perpetually in combat against people who are much stronger than it, especially when you consider the fact that the activation of the technique requires physical contact with either the chest or head of your opponent. So the answer as to why doesn't Sasuke use all of the paths of the Rinnegan is the same as if you were to ask this question about Madara. Most of the abilities of the Rinnegan either don't fit his fighting style, have been outscaled, or don't fit his image. It's not that he can't use them, it's not that he's incompetent, it's not that the writers want him to seem weaker than he actually is, and it's definitely not that the writers forgot that he has access to all of these paths. Well, yes, there probably is a circumstance or two where Ikemoto and Kishimoto thought to themselves, could Sasuke use a Rinnegan ability here? And then made the decision to have him not do that for plot reasons, or, like we've already talked about, image reasons. In almost all the circumstances I can think of, that is to say moments where Sasuke was in combat, him using anything else but the abilities we saw him using wouldn't have made all that much sense. I mean, if you want to get upset about anything as it pertains to Sasuke not using his Rinnegan abilities, get upset he doesn't use heavenly hand power more often. But as Sasuke, who's being perpetually asked to open space-time ninjutsu portals for either himself or a bunch of people all throughout Boruto, is constantly dealing with chakra issues. Chakra issues that just limit his ability to use the Rinnegan overall. Because remember, previous to Sasuke, the only uses of the Rinnegan that we had seen were Nagato, a full-blooded Uzumaki, and Madara. Specifically, a Madara brought back with a perfect body selectively built by Kabuto, who was not only an Edo Tensei reincarnation, but also had access to Hashirama's cells. So before you try and get on your high horse and say, oh, they're trying to make Sasuke seem so much weaker than he actually is, it's actually just consistent writing. He doesn't have the most chakra in the world, and therefore using the eye that belongs to the super-powered freak breed of aliens is kind of difficult for him. It's not complicated, there's not some grand ploy, he can still do it just doesn't work for him all the time. Occam's razor, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the correct answer is the simplest one. What do you guys think? Do you believe there's some alternative reason as to why Sasuke doesn't use the Rinnegan? Let me know in the comments below. And while it goes down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. If you'll excuse me, I have to go ice my shoulder.